Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another video on Superman Lois Season 4. Today we're going to be doing my review for Episode 4, which just aired, so if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment, and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos later this year. Okay, so this was a great episode. I wasn't expecting too much from it just based on the title, A Perfectly Good Wedding. We knew it was going to be about Kyle and Chrissy, but as you guys have seen the episode, we can talk about all the spoilers. And as you guys know, this episode had the return of Superman. It was a great scene. We're going to talk about that and a lot more, so stick with me throughout this entire video. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into this. So the episode opens on a beautiful sunrise as Lois looks on her father's grave. Obviously, there is melancholic music, it's quite somber, and you have her holding her dog tag as the boys sit idly inside as the music goes on. But then something seems a bit odd because you start hearing something and you get the shot through the clouds. I thought that was an insanely good looking shot with the clouds kind of dispersing around the camera. And then you have them turning around because they hear something, and this is the return of Superman because Clark lands back in front of Lois. It's a surreal moment, it's a great way to start the episode, and he embraces Lois. I had chills in this moment, I'm sure most of you did. We have been speculating, is it going to be at the end of the episode? Is it going to be the episode afterwards? Because obviously we saw him wake up at the end of last episode and we didn't know how quick he was going to get out of the fortress. But I really liked that they started the episode with this because it was a great opening to the episode. And before the Superman Lois logo hits, the boys run outside, they sprint over, they hug their father as he returns. He is a whole new person, he is alive. And after the logo, we get Clark narrating, 3 weeks ago, I died. In an instant, everything went dark. Then just as fast, the light returned. That is what Clark had to say, and what a great narration it is to enter this new Clark who feels the effects of his death and obviously his new heart, and not everything is exactly the same. So I like the way that he talks about how he died and then he woke up but it returned just as fast as he died. So, and then the episode moves on, we see Jonathan flying, we got Lois and Jordan's relationship being quite sticky whilst Clark is narrating all of this, and Clark talks about how he's got a second chance and he really does thank General Lane for his sacrifice because it means everything to him that he was willing to give up his life in order to bring back Superman because he knew the world needed Superman, which has become evidently clear because I don't think Steel and everyone, along with the two Superboys, are enough to take down Doomsday when they have to take down Doomsday. And you guys have to remember, Doomsday is still around, they haven't defeated him yet, so that's a big fight that we can look forward to seeing in the next couple of weeks. And so it's been 3 weeks since Clark has returned, and you can see Clark's chest, it isn't healed yet, and he's feeling, as I said earlier, the side effects of General Lane's heart, and we see that later in the episode with him crashing down in the ice with Jonathan whilst they're training together, and that's because obviously he's not fully adjusted to everything, and it seems he is much more vulnerable than before because the traditional Superman that we know, he would have healed straight away because that's just the Kryptonian genes inside of him. So it seems the human heart is going to cause some problems, especially at the start whilst he is just trying to get back. And so he's not going to be able to face Doomsday straight away, that's for sure. So let's talk about Kyle and Chrissy because they return, they talk about their wedding. It's good to see them back despite them being probably the least popular characters on the show. I would say I like their stuff in this episode. I think the way that they rounded off the story was good. We're going to talk about that as we go along through the episode, as we always do chronologically. And so what happens next after we see the return of those two is Jonathan jumps off a cliff as he trains with his dad, and he has no fear. And this is with epic music, and he flies away. You get like Star Wars, Mad Max references. I really like this scene. It showed the difference between Jonathan and Jordan because us Superman Lois fans can think back to when Jordan first did this, and it was quite different. And I think the relationship between him and his dad is very good, although you kind of do feel bad for Jordan throughout this whole thing. And so he is kind of the ideal student, and you know, he is a bit reckless. Like, you can see him going through the iceberg instead of flying up over it, and Clark is quite surprised. But it's at that moment whilst they're racing and they're doing the Mad Max Fury Road run that Clark comes crashing down to a halt. Meanwhile, Lois is with Chrissy. We saw that sneak peek just before the episode came out, and in that sneak peek they talk about how the pipe burst at the courthouse where they were supposed to get married, and so Lois suggests that they host their wedding, and they're all ready to do that at the barn. So you see it later in the episode. I think they do a really good job doing up very quickly, and it looks really nice. Next up, we have a few scenes which are interesting. They both include Lois, and Lois has a scene with Jonathan where they talk to Clark because they're worried about, obviously, his heart after the accident. Lois comes home, she's dead set on finding out the truth. She can tell something is off just based on the way that they were talking and their looks, and Jonathan reveals, yeah, Clark went crashing down and he's clearly not ready for all of this. And then the next scene after that, Clark and Lois finally have a talk about his death and how everything feels different and how his hearing is limited, he feels less strong, and Clark wonders, is this permanent? So this was a really strong scene because it showed him being actually vulnerable, because we see Superman as this great idealistic hero figure, right, who is almost indefeatable, and we saw him actually die. So now that he's back, he really has to be careful because he's got a second chance now, and he is aware of this, and obviously he's going to be wondering, okay, am I ever going to get back to where I was before, or is my new heart that I'm thankful for going to be a hindrance to what I'm trying to do? And so what is happening elsewhere is Kyle meets Chrissy's mum at the diner. We saw some photos of that before, and so it turns out the lady is Chrissy's mum. It's very awkward, and her mum thinks everything is going way too fast. And I think the way that they dealt with the story was good in the end, although I'm not like the biggest fan of the two characters. I think the fact that Chrissy was freaking out later in the episode and that the wedding was eventually called off, but everything ended in quite a nice way, I think is a good reflection of the two characters and how Clark and Lois were both able to help them in their own different ways to figure stuff out and almost be more open with each other, because obviously Clark and Lois are relationship goals, as Chrissy calls them in the episode, which I laughed at. But it's true, they've been able to overcome so much and they're a perfect couple. But back in Smallville, Lois is notified that Gretchen is in Metropolis, and Lois has figured out her true identity. Her name is Cheryl Campbell, and Lois confronts her with Jonathan after Jordan notifies them. And so Lois goes up to her and she tells her the truth. She's like, I'm going to put Lex away and you're going to help me. But obviously Gretchen, aka Cheryl Campbell, is extremely scared of Lex because Lex literally leaves no strings and he'll have no remorse for her if she betrays him. So let's hop over to Sarah, because Sarah has a nice scene with Jordan and he is a bit miserable, as we've seen in the last couple of episodes, and Sarah straight up just asks him to be open with her and be honest, and Jordan basically reveals that he thinks he's not worthy of being Superboy. He's been questioning everything that's happened because he was really poised to step up to the plate whilst his dad was dead, but now his dad is back and Jonathan has powers. He feels inferior, he feels like he's not worthy of his powers, and he's obviously in this weird tricky situation. He does have this great scene with Lois towards the end of the episode, which we'll get to later in this video, and so that was a great scene. But meanwhile, Chrissy loses her mind, she runs away, Lois finds her, she explains how she's been feeling and how everything has spun out of control, and so Lois steps up to the plate and actually gives her a good talking to. And so let's talk about that scene with Jordan and Lois, because he finally admits to his mum that he really wished that she chose him instead of Jonathan, despite Lois explaining why she chose Jonathan, because Jonathan didn't have powers at the time, and how everything has been so easy between them is obviously a big problem for Jordan, and he's honest about that with his mum. But really right now Jordan has no confidence in himself, as he blames himself for letting everyone down. But obviously Lois is willing to work on this and really wants to, because no one wants to see Jordan in this state. Obviously they were so happy when he basically came out of his shell, when he came to Smallville, and he's become a better person, and now he's kind of going back to that cocooned self where he's a bit more miserable and he kind of doubts everything in his life. But just after this we have Jonathan, who is aware of a fire in Metropolis. Him and Jordan spot it, and Jordan comes face to face with none other than Gretchen, who is seemingly in big trouble because presumably this is Lex's work, and you see one of Lex's henchmen who's there. He goes after Jonathan. I don't know if it was a trap or not, but more likely than not, it could be a trap. But they were trying to kill Gretchen pretty much. They probably found out that she talked to Lois and they were trying to kill her and obviously make it look like it was just a fire and she was just one of the casualties. And so with Jonathan in trouble, we get the epic return of Superman, who is back in action, and this is an amazing scene. It's an amazing shot in slow motion with him stepping through the flames and absorbing everything around him. What a return. This just looked so good visually. I actually lost it when I was watching this. I really got chills and I was just screaming to myself, hell yes, this is what I wanted, and what a way to get Superman back in action. I'm sure you guys share that same opinion as me. I was just losing my mind in this scene, and seeing him back in the suit, obviously helping Jonathan, and it was almost as if this was from Jonathan's perspective, because he was in big trouble and his dad is back. He's back from the dead. Lex's henchman wasn't expecting Superman to be back. As he says, you're supposed to be dead, but he is back and he is here, and he is taking no prisoners as he steps through those flames, and he easily defeats the henchman, but Gretchen gets away. But it's a great scene. So let me know down in the comments below, what did you think of Superman's return? So back in Smallville, the whole Kent family is together, and Jordan gives his Superboy suit to Jonathan as he wants to take a step back and figure a few things out about himself. And so Jonathan is going to step up and become the new Superboy. I know a lot of you guys have been asking, when is he going to get a House of L suit? Are we going to see Jonathan and Jordan team up together later in the season? I think the answer to that is probably yes to both of them. We'll wait and see about the suit, but I think Jordan will figure stuff out, and I think he will step back up and help Jonathan. And so meanwhile, we got some returning faces at the wedding. Obviously the wedding gets called off and it becomes a party. You got Sarah's sister. It was nice to see her back. Wasn't expecting her to come back with all the budget cuts. And also Coach Gaines is back. Some fun little references back to season 1 and season 2. And they just all have a good time at the party. It's nice to see them all being happy, dancing after all the misery and all the darkness of the first couple of episodes. So it was great to see Clark and Lois laughing, to see Sarah dancing, see Jordan smiling. It is a great happy moment for the Smallville family. And so now we go to the ending scene of the episode, where we have Lois and Clark having an intimate moment. It's a great moment to end off the episode after the return of Superman, after everything that's happened. They get back to normalcy and the kids are out, and then you start hearing some notifications going off and the camera moves and you get the reveal that it's Lois's phone and it's getting spammed with news notifications saying Superman lives. So it seems it's been leaked. Someone spotted Superman and it's been released to the press, and now we're going to have to deal with this in the next episode. So episode 5, we're going to get the return of Superman in terms of him out in the public. People are going to know he's back from the dead. They're going to be asking questions, wondering, how is Superman back? We thought he died. That was the whole article that Lois did. And suddenly he is back. And obviously this is going to catch the attention of Lex Luthor, who we did not see in this episode, but you can presume he's going to be in the next episode, and he will find out that Superman is back, and it's going to be a huge deal. So is he going to send Doomsday after Superman again? Are we going to get a rematch of that fight? And I hope for Clark's sake it doesn't happen literally so soon, because he's going to need backup and everyone's going to have to step up to the plate, and they're going to have to be creative about how they can actually stop this creature, because honestly, he is such a beast. Like, how is he still around, and how is Superman going to even beat him after being killed by him just a couple of episodes back? So that pretty much does it for this video, guys. I really enjoyed this episode. I love seeing Tyler suit up as Superman once again. Let me know down in the comments below, were you hyped to see him return so early in the episode? And I think the way that they did it was just so good, with the clouds parting and him returning and the embrace with Lois and then the kids after that. It was just such a good way to start this episode, and then the eventual return of him to action later in the episode was just amazing. So yeah, really enjoyed this. Guys, my trailer breakdown will be out later tomorrow, so if you are liking all the Superman Lois videos, make sure to tune in again tomorrow. So for now, if you did enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment. Also subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. But for now, you can click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.